meeting to order. We'll have roll call, please.
Cam Collier.
Here.
Bill Carbach.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here. You're all emailed a copy of the minutes from our September 20th meeting. Do you have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Jeremy, first thing. Oh, not first thing.
Well, just to make the legal note as a matter of record for the salt bid.
Okay. First thing, we need to make the legal, the advertising of the legal, legal notice.
Matter of record.
A matter of record. Thank you, Cam. Couldn't say it.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Now, salt bids. I bet you. I just bet you. I can do a better job opening these envelopes.
Well, unless you have a right-handed knife.
Yes, left-handed stuff doesn't work very
No.
well.
Hey.
Trust me, I try.
Yeah. I've been watching him for
Very
9
nice.
years.
See, I don't see what was so difficult about that. You mean it's not the knife or the utensil, it's the person trying to do it?
It's the operator, as they say.
That's a fair statement.
How many
Pardon?
bids did we receive, Phyllis?
Four.
Four.
Or five.
Five.
Five of them.
Okay, and this is salt bids for both the treatment plant as well as road salt, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Some
so,
may bid both, some may bid one, some of them may not bid any.
all right. First bid that's opened is submitted by Morton Salt out of Chicago, Illinois. Before we start, do you have any idea what we're paying on both right now?
No, I don't. I thought about that when I went home, but I never did look it up. It was down last year quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mid-50s, right around 60 possibly. That sticks in my mind. The treatment salt is like 100, or just a little over 100 normally per ton.
Okay, the bid is submitted on Form 96. It's properly signed and notarized. There's a cashier's check in the amount of $71,897.40 is submitted. I believe this is 200 tons of Morton's bulk safety salt, so this would be for the softening?
No,
street. Okay. And that's, the bid is $65.37 a ton for a total of $13,074. And then there is a second bid for the softener salt, 3,000 tons, at $235.30 per ton or unit, for a total of $705,900. $705,000.
Wow.
I think like $100.
That's way up. Yeah.
I wonder if they did granulated.
Do we want to put them back
That's
easier
usually higher,
for now?
yeah.
It's more pure where the road salt is a little bit more dirty and has a little bit of gravel with it periodically, just little small pieces.
The second bid is a bid submitted by Compass Minerals out of Overlook Park, Kansas. It's a bid on street salt. Bid is submitted on Form 96. It's properly signed, notarized. Cashier's check in the amount of $15,000 is submitted with the bid. The bid submitted is $67.75 per ton for a total of $13,550. bid bond of 15, or a cashier's check for 15,000.
Supposed to be 10%.
Yeah.
That's a little bit.
It's a bit more than they needed to. Okay. The third bid that opened is a bid submitted by Detroit Salt Company out of Detroit, Michigan. Appears that this bid is for bulk rock road salt. Form 96 is submitted and signed. Cashier's check in the amount of $20,579.20 is submitted. The bid, $64.31 per ton.
That's all, just the road salt on that one?
Yes. Last bid submitted is submitted by Cargill.
Not the last, there's one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second last. Submitted by third last.
No, that's second last.
Oh, I thought you
This is
said-
the fourth bid.
Oh, okay.
All right, the next bid submitted is submitted by Cargill
Having enough.
Where did you go to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
at North Olmsted, Ohio. And they simply did not tender a bid. Cover letter says that they regret that they will be unable to submit a bid for your de-icing requirements for the 2016-17 winter season.
They like to keep them on the bid list. I hope they can have suffering salt.
I know, it doesn't feel very thick, so
I think
Come on.
that's...
Is this the last bid?
that's the last one.
Okay. Last bid is submitted by RBS Inc. Out of Terre Haute, Indiana. It's for water conditioning rock salt, 3,000 tons. Unit price $115.89 a ton for a total of $347,670.
How much was that one?
$347,670.
$115.
$115.89 the other one was.
120 less than one.
235.
Wow. Unreal.
That is who we have
about what they
currently.
do.
It's Green Seed Company.
Yeah. And all they,
And they submit, the bid is submitted on Form 96, it's properly signed, and they submit a bid bond in the amount of 10% of the bond, or the bid.
and they didn't bid the road salt though, right?
I don't see anything on the road salt.
Haven't they? Okay.
It's just on the water.
Your RBS for that, and then the road salt would be Detroit.
I'd just let Jeremy take them under,
Advisement.
Take a look at them
look
first.
at them and make a recommendation. But yeah,
And then we'll approve these at the next meeting?
probably
There you
do
go.
it tonight, can't we?
Or?
I can look at the question there, and you can do it at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
It won't take
Either
long.
or, yeah.
But Ken went through the legal portion of it, so.
Let's just say let's table this until
Yep.
Jamie takes them under advisement. If he gets it done tonight, then so be it.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Next thing, the depot lease agreement. Jeremy is on the phone.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next thing. Certificate of appointment to Taylor Gage to the fire department. We need to make that a matter of record. And then also we need to make a matter of record that Heath Camp is on as a reserve officer now.
Need something else.
Okay, so this is just a certificate for Taylor Gage coming on effective October 1st as a firefighter. And he was sworn in by Phyllis on the 28th. Like to make this a matter of record?
So moved, yeah.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Okay, and you both need to sign this. Then do you have one for Heath, or not?
It's just, no, because he hasn't been sworn in. He won't be sworn in until...
Should we wait to
he
do that
starts
later?
Next year, yeah, but you can... He
As a
won't-
reserve?
He has been reviewed by PERF, and he has
You
passed
just didn't want
that.
me to get my more
So,
penalty.
I mean, we don't need to do
Oh,
anything,
yeah.
that's just...
Okay, we won't do anything with Heath, okay. That takes care of that. Jeremy, the lease agreement, did you and Larry Ish have a chance to look that over?
We called in here today, or called yourself today.
Yeah, I saw that you called me, but,
They're trying to come in and see, and we didn't get a response
yeah,
back from you.
yeah.
Um,
Was there some issues?
There was just some clarification that Larry and the park board would like to have. We meet again Monday night, so
Do you know what those issues were?
I do not. I was not at the last meeting, I was sick. Part of it was alcohol. I know he mentioned something about allowing alcohol or not allowing alcohol. Then there was some other just real minor things that he brought up. He said he had a list of them at home. He didn't have them with him whenever we were talking about it.
And we were going to approve that this evening, but wait another 2 weeks?
And the park board never had an opportunity to even see the lease agreement until the last meeting. It was never forwarded on to them. I never even saw it. I haven't even saw it yet.
Well, we just finished it a few days ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know, I wasn't aware that I needed to get it. I thought I sent it to you.
No, is that, are we just asking them to manage the...
Manage it.
I mean, did the park board want to write the agreement, or?
No. They just had some questions on the agreement since essentially they're the ones that are managing the property.
That's okay, but is it going to change the agreement?
I don't know what the concerns are. I think it's more probably the rules and regulations or what's going to be allowed or not allowed. But that's more in the exhibit to the agreement.
But isn't it, it's still the cities, and they're just gonna
Right.
do the paperwork for leasing, I don't...
I guess my point is that if there's points of clarification that they need from a management perspective, we can provide that, but it doesn't change the...
I don't see where it's going to change your agreement or what you guys have decided on.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought I'd sent that to you. So I must have just sent it to you.
Sweet.
We can wait a couple weeks to clarify it.
Oh, the problem, you got...
We got a waiting list. I've heard, yeah, I
Oh,
emailed
okay.
it over
I'm sorry. I
to
didn't
Brian
realize
Green,
that,
told him to
yeah.
go ahead and start calling people on the waiting list.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people, and I think some people who have expressed their frustration that they couldn't do this yet, so I don't know that we can wait any longer.
Could we pass the rental agreement subject to park board's?
Well, I don't see why the park board needs to approve it.
That's where I'm at.
It doesn't belong to them. I think they're just gonna do the paperwork for us for renting it.
If we need to clarify what
Right.
we put in there for them and explain it, that's fine. But it doesn't change anything substantially from what we have looked at and agreed upon.
Like I said, I was sick that night, the last meeting, so I'm hearing this back from Chris and Larry.
I mean, regarding the alcohol, I mean, it just simply says it's not unless without special authorization. Right?
Has to be approved.
Has to be approved. That's the only thing on there. I guess I'm going to listen that if we looked at it, we wrote it, we agree it is our property, you vetted it, and you feel comfortable with it, and that's what we want to do, then we move forward with it. If there is a concern whether or not they're willing to take that responsibility on because of how we've written it, that's another issue. If it's just needing points of clarification so that they feel comfortable with it, we can address that. But are we going to change anything?
if there's changes, I don't know if the park board has issues with some of the rules or regulations. That's the only, I mean, the body of the lease is pretty straightforward, and I can't imagine what changes would need to be made to that.
But we're
And-
adopting
and-
the lease agreement, not the rules and regulations, right?
Well, you're
Didn't
really...
I email that to you when I sent it
Because
to
you have to
Ryan
adopt
Green?
both, because the rules have to be
Yeah,
attached.
just a day or two ago.
So you and Larry do have a copy of
We
it?
do
Okay.
have a copy of it. The park board has had some problems in the past about with stuff just getting sent to them and passed right in, so they all kind of agreed a couple years ago that once they received something, that they wanted an opportunity to review. So, that's kind of the standings.
Well, if they're managing it, that's why I did it.
It's up to you. If you guys want to pass it, you can pass it, and then we will just work out the little details.
Given that point, for them signatures, does that matter to you?
What's that?
That they're, I mean, they're just...
Well, they're signing it because they're managing it. I mean, that's why I put it there. They're acting as an agent for the city.
And they may not be willing to sign it if they don't agree
If
with it.
yeah, I guess if they don't want to manage it, then we need to figure out a different way to do that.
But it goes down, are we going to change what we put in there because of them, their unwillingness to manage it? Or are we going to just proceed with how we are and figure out a different way?
That's what I would think.
Do you know if Ryan has called anyone yet?
He's emailed all of them.
And told them.
They haven't.
No, not the park board. I mean, has he been, I told Ryan to go ahead and start calling the waiting list people and letting them, okay, you don't know that. Okay.
I know he's been very busy the last couple of days with registration, so I don't know if he's called him yet or not.
Will?
What else do you have? Can we call Larry and his way ask the question?
Yeah, that's fine, if you can get a hold of him, but, yeah, I guess, I don't see where there's going to be any change to the form. If the park board has some issues with some of the rules or regulations,
You said it's primarily over the alcohol, you think?
One thing that Larry brought up Friday night was the alcohol, and then he was trying to remember everything that was brought up, because we don't allow alcohol at Riverside Center.
right,
You know, they talked about wanting to allow it, but then there was always been other things that has discouraged that, and now you're allowing it there, or potentially allowing it there, so that was some clarification. Ideally, we would have to go back and change the rules for Riverside. So that's kind of why they were wanting some clarification. Are we doing one and not the other, and some other things.
I mean, yes, that was my understanding and intention all along, because this is not a park-owned property. This is a
Right.
city-owned property. We're asking them to oversee the lease management, but knowing full well the issues that seem to be problematic over there with alcohol doesn't apply to that building. So we're not signing this over to them, and so therefore their leases can be different than ours.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that the park board has to approve use of alcohol at the Riverside if they don't feel that that's appropriate. So,
Or are you saying they do think it's appropriate?
They've talked different times about wanting to
That-
allow it.
I heard that from Steve Kroll, back when Steve was managing, he wanted to do it. He wanted to put alcohol there.
For wedding receptions and such.
Exactly,
There was
and
push
class
out
reunions and...
who pushed against it? The people on the park board or others?
I don't think they ever,
It's outside.
Okay.
The fact that it was a community center for the youth.
Yeah, it was the Decatur Youth and Community Center years and years and years ago.
But point being,
yeah, exactly. What we came up with for the train depot is what we want to present, and we just want the park board to manage that as placed. So I think we can go ahead, we should be able to go ahead and,
I think we should definitely get together with
Yeah.
Larry and Jeremy and whoever else from the park board needs to be present to find out what the concerns are so that we can address those if there are things that need to be addressed. I mean, if it's just a matter of explanation,
Ownership is still the city's.
yes.
Maintenance is whose. maintenance, utilities,
I think that's all
That's
That's all the city.
okay.
Yeah.
So if something broke, it's the city, we're just collecting.
Well, the
we're just
person that's
collecting
signing
funds.
the agreement would,
If they break it and we know that it's caused by their use,
Normally,
it's
it's just like a house, you're gonna have maintenance.
Yeah.
happen.
but if we have
it's the
Well,
city's.
if we have a leak in the roof, it's our responsibility.
One of the things you probably need to look at is doing like a non-reverting fund, so that the rental money goes into that for future upkeep.
Because that's gonna be and I wasn't there and I haven't heard it, but I know that's a concern we have with other properties that we have because our money is really coming in short from the state on the park side. So to take on another property, take on other
Yeah.
things that we potentially could have financial burden on, that's gonna be a definite concern to them.
No,
But
that's
it's
not.
not.
That wasn't intended.
I'm sure that's probably one. Now, knowing the board members, I'm sure that's one question.
Yeah. It was just a matter of who does somebody contact to rent it?
I will talk to them Monday night then and relay a lot of this, try to clear up anything that I can clear up Monday night.
Well, in the meantime, have Larry come in and talk to the mayor, or, so that we know, we understand what their concerns are.
We can go ahead and
Yeah.
get things moving.
So if they're not comfortable taking on that
Yeah.
role, that's up to them, but I think we move forward with what we've developed, and I will make a motion to accept the lease agreement, rules and regulations as presented.
And I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve the depot lease agreement and the rules and regulations. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you.
And therefore Ryan can continue.
Yeah. Next is a resolution to sell the police car to Community Corrections. You have that, Tim?
I do. It's actually a resolution, it's going to be, it's a joint resolution, it's also going to be acted upon by the Common Council. And then this has to likewise be approved by the county commissioners and county council. I've taken the liberty of preparing that resolution as well, rather than possibly having it delayed. Just trying to make things simple.
We got to do all those tonight.
Yeah,
We got a bunch.
Oh, man.
so let me get the
Better
right
on your
one.
game, Cam. I know Tim is.
Yeah, I gotta find a, nope, that's an okra, that's an okra. Okay. All right, so this is a, Phyllis, I don't know what resolution,
on number 14.
14? Had a lot of resolutions this year. All right. This is actually a joint resolution that's to be signed by the Board of Works and Council. The purpose of the resolution is, Greg...
Bring it up at council meeting too?
Yes. Greg has a surplus police vehicle, and he checked on the value. The value ranged anywhere from $6,500 to $8,500 or $9,500. Community Corrections would like to purchase it, willing to pay $6,500 for it, which is the wholesale value. So in order for that to be done, the substantially similar resolutions have to be adopted by both governmental units in order for it to be sold without going through a bid or an auction. So the purpose of this resolution is then to authorize from the city side its willingness to sell this vehicle to the county for $6,500 to be used by the county Community Corrections Department.
I'll make a motion to introduce Resolution 2016-14 by short title.
Second.
No, we have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2016-14. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Tim, go ahead.
Resolution 2016-14, short title, resolution, a joint resolution of the Decatur Board of Public Works and Safety and of the Common Council of the City of Decatur, Indiana, which authorizes and approves the sale of a surplus vehicle to Adams County, Indiana, for the use by the Adams County Corrections Department.
So they don't pass it, they just What do they do?
If they don't pass it, we can't sell it to them without going through an auction.
Twice, is that what you're saying?
No, we pass ours, then I've got
With a
one to...
separate one?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
We need a motion to pass this resolution?
yes.
So,
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pass resolution 2016-14. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. So the next resolution at the council meeting will be another number, 15, whatever.
No, we're using the same number because it's a joint resolution.
That's right, you did say that, okay.
Do we have the depot here?
I have it.
Oh, you have it.
We have it.
What does the name?
Oh,
Oh, the name
Donna.
signed.
They put the 14th on there, change that to the
Yeah.
4th. What?
That lease agreement, doesn't it need to be signed here? The depot lease?
What do I have on, the lease agreement?
Yeah,
For,
the depot.
What was it you had that had, you said...
no, we authorized the
That's
park
the
department.
amended one.
Okay,
No?
who's the signature on it? I don't have it in front of me. Is it the Board of Works or is it the Park Department?
Well, this is just a draft.
Mm.
I guess you just have Lacey here, organization, Lacey, and
Yeah, that's,
sizable
the Park Department, we've authorized the Park Department to sign it as our agent.
I'll need one for the record.
Okay.
You can forward that.
Yep, got it. Winchester Road, I got an email from Christy Sturts, said I just wanted to touch base with you to see if you're still interested in exploring an annexation northwest of the city off Winchester Road. If so, I'd like to schedule a time to discuss such an approach. Was there,
those are the properties up there that have been tapped into the sewer?
Yes.
Yeah.
like
On
that
the north
Sullivan
side.
House?
Oh, yeah.
and- But we've never, not really discussed
We never,
it.
we never expressed an interest, we just gave them, we just made part of the...
They wanted
They
to,
expressed interest.
yeah, so if it's a super voluntary and all of them are willing to, then
How do we find out if they're all, how many homes were there? Was Hebels and all those included in that?
I don't think Hebels were, I think there was, I know there was at least two residences,
And
whoever...
Leeches?
Leeches, whoever bought Dick Sullivan's old property, for sure. But I don't know if there were other properties as well or not.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to guess,
How do I find that out?
ask them, but...
I mean, how do I find out who else was
Who
involved?
contacted
It's Christy Sturts.
you? Oh, Chris.
What about the one before the creek?
Is that one?
Yeah, those are the ones we have to really
Sullivan?
be concerned about also is, you got Porters and, on both sides of the road.
Porters are already in.
Porters are in?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the north side of the road then? Those are not in.
What pond is?
Forward on that or
No, that's the resolution.
It's the first one on the other side of
Get this
pond
back to
there,
you, That's the resolution.
on the,
Before you get to Charlie.
The one
Okay.
as you're going out of town, the houses on the right are involved. It's the
Right.
houses on the left.
Left are, and I don't know whether Leeches, I don't remember
10.
which one they're on.
I think the cleanest way is to try to just see if we can voluntarily get all those people.
If they're willing to,
Right,
it's the simplest
exactly.
way to do it.
Okay, let me look into that.
Which-
Then we just send a letter and say that there
Yep.
had been some previous expressed interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Does this include you?
Okay.
One of the things that's related to the annexation, with regard to the jail and the Martin, or the Miller Farm, the city was supposed to be reimbursed by the county up to $5,000. Have we sent a bill to the county for that, Phyllis?
Yes,
Did they pay it? Okay. And then secondly, I'll get a hold of Mark Burry or Stacy Summers, and they're supposed to submit an application for rezoning of that property. So I'll check with them to see if they've got that ready to go. Because the agreement was that they would rezone it to C2.
I guess regarding the northwest, or the or just a road. If all of them that are out there feel they're voluntary, then great. But if it's just a couple, I certainly don't see that. I mean, to go through having Christie be involved,
For 2 places.
that just isn't.
All right.
Something that you're gonna have to take into consideration on that stretch is you're gonna have to run a water main out there within 3 years. So you're gonna have to commit yourself.
On the stretch to the north side?
Because the water main stops at where you turn into Tim's Addition.
Yeah, okay.
I said, then in all likelihood, we're not really that interested.
Yeah.
Take into consideration.
Yeah, the Sullivan,
That expense.
yeah,
Which has been
right.
a capital project that Dan and I have talked about anyhow, with Circulate.
Well, I was going to say,
Can you loop that anyway?
there may be reasons to do it, is what you're
So there
saying.
would be a push
Yeah.
both ways to be able to do that capital project and potentially annex.
But to do that, you're saying the houses, as you're going north out of town there, the houses to the right would also need to be included?
Yes.
Which there are several houses along there, and get a super voluntary from all of them might be tough.
Well, they were, all of them that were hooked onto the sewer in the last few years that would have signed your,
remonstrance, huh?
Waiver of remonstrance.
Right.
Okay.
so, I don't know what kind of...
Yeah, there were-
That puts you in at, this point, the law's changing. but,
3 or 4 homes that tied in,
there's a lot more than that.
were there?
But I think that does bring up a valid question.
You got a list?
Like, does our previous agreement hold any water, given the new law?
I would say yes, because it was done before those laws went into effect. As long as they were properly documented, and I think they were recorded, because you have to put property owners on notice, future property owners on notice that a prior agreement waived that right on their behalf. So I would say that those individuals wouldn't have standing to remonstrate, but whether there are other properties that would potentially be impacted by an annexation that would object to it, those, they haven't signed a waiver of remonstrance, would have the capability of doing it.
I'll look into it and see what
I
all
think all those
properties
property
were.
owners would.
Hmm?
If I
Good to
remember
go with
right, I
those?
think those property owners would.
All of them that have tied in did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just don't know if there's other properties that would be affected by the annexation.
Did we hook Heller's up then when we hooked the Sullivan property up, Jeremy?
Yes, Sullivan's is hooked.
And they're hooked with the sewer also? So they signed the remonstrance?
Mm-hmm. I should have.
Well, I would say go for it if you and Dan want to make the loop. And
Let's just, let me look into
Sure,
it, get,
that's fine.
find out how many homes were involved,
Yeah.
who they were, see what they had signed, and then look into the feasibility and see if it's, realistically something we can do. And if we can do it, if it makes sense,
Right.
then we move forward. So I'll bring it up again in a couple weeks. Let's go back to the salt bids. Jeremy has reviewed these. If we want to make a motion on the 2 that we were assuming, the one from the Detroit Salt and the one
and
from
Morton.
Graham Feed,
RBS.
Or, yeah,
then
RBS Inc., yeah.
Yes.
I make a motion to that.
I'll
Is that
second
fact?
that, yeah.
a motion and a second to approve the salt bids as earlier opened.
Reviewed.
Excuse me. It says Graham Feed. Is it?
It is Graham Feed.
Okay.
That's who would we make the check payable to.
And then from Detroit Salt on the other.
On the road salt, yeah.
Actually, I think that's an assumed name, but that's probably how they do business.
That is how they're doing business. It's ours something.
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second to approve these. All in favor?
Yeah.
Opposed, the same? You good, Tim? Phyllis? Surrender these back to you. Okay, that's that. Jeremy mentioned to me that should we get the 5 Points intersection improvement funding, we will have so many days or whatever to look over what they officially offer us and then either accept or deny what they offered us, which we likely will approve it. But we don't have that in hand, okay? We know the amount of money, but we don't know any other particulars. And that we may need to have that done before we meet again. So there may be the need to have a special council meeting. So is that...
What I'm doing is just giving the Fort Wayne District a little time. When I emailed them on Monday morning, they still didn't get notification. So they were kind of, you know,
I still haven't heard from anyone from NDOT.
surprised also. So I was going to give them a day or two and then contact the Fort Wayne District. And because what they will do is they will set up a meeting,
District
and you and I and whoever else wants to go will go up there.
Go up there.
We'll actually have a meeting with them. But at that point, they're going to want you to commit.
Whenever that meeting is.
Correct. So I'm going to push them off. I know you're going to be out of town, so I'm going to push them off as long as I can. Normally, it's within a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after they award
Okay.
the funds. So, you know, I'm hopeful, and I can just explain the circumstances that you're out of town and, you know, try to push it off as long as I can to try to get us into the next meeting.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm sure they'll work with
Say,
us.
with this thing not happening until 2020, I would think we have time.
There were 64 communities, obviously not all of them within
Our district.
our district were funded, but they will work with us. I know they will.
Yeah, with Jeremy and I, we were talking, and we know that the community that was in the room up there applying in front of us, and the one two in front of us, which happened to be Columbia City and Kendallville, they weren't on the list. So they didn't get theirs. It's kind of gloating.
Feel real fortunate because we do have a great partnership with NDOT. They're not always in the front of the communication with the central office and such, but they're very good partners. It proved itself. You know, I attend a lot of classes with those guys throughout the year, and they're always saying that, you know, how good they feel about our partnership.
Does anyone in this room...
want to be.
And that's where we need to stay. You know, and that's probably one of the bigger reasons why I attend more classes up there than what I'm required, just to help maintain that relationship.
Go up to end up with Jeremy. It's like he's one of the employees up
Good
there.
old
They all
buddy.
know him.
Jeremy?
You know, you have to feel very fortunate because we were one of the highest awarded amounts. If you guys went through your emails.
Yeah, most of them were less
We're
than
just
that.
short $2.1 million. You know, when Ken and I went to that interview, we were kind of shocked because we were going to be asked to pay a lot more than that.
They asked us if we would just be willing to pay if they paid just for the construction, if we would pick up everything else, which would have been probably more than half of the cost. And we told them we're committed to this project, but there was no way I could commit to that without talking to my council. And what we got, basically, is if you take the 2.1 divided by 3, it's 70%. So,
And bearing that there's no real big surprises all in the project, I think we'll be okay, because taking the stellar figures, I did some estimating, I went a little higher. I gave it to Greater Decatur, and you guys went a little higher than that. So, you know, just going off of other communities and talking with some other firms and other consultants, as long as we don't get into anything major, which I don't think that we will. There's a couple things that may be a little questionable, but I think we can work through those. Financially, I think we'll be okay.
okay, well, if we need that, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
But basically, what we will need is a commitment from council and that, you know, we're good.
Yeah.
So,
They'll probably need a resolution, probably
yes.
get there.
Right.
Les, you had emailed me and asked me if you could ask to proceed with bidding for the grass truck.
Yeah, I don't know why I got too short to get my head. It's just the force of habit. Yeah, it's been way back, probably almost a year ago, where we had identified funding for the UTV and the grass truck. We proceeded, the UTV's done, and we have the spec almost ready to put out to bid for the grass truck and the remainder of that. The funding is going to come from the township truck fund, and the remainder of what we had already earmarked and low it for that. I guess the big question is with Phyllis is how quickly we need to get a timeline for getting it advertised, and so we'd like to open the bids on November 15th, if that works in Phyllis's advertising plan and getting it advertised and all that in the right amount of time. Is that feasible to have a bid opening by November 15th?
That's the second meeting in November.
6 weeks.
Is that feasible to do? So when would we need to allow bids to be, or when would we,
That would give enough time.
timeline to get the spec out, I guess, and get bidders?
Did you check with them to see how long it took for them to get the spec, or? once
There's
they
a
get the
couple of
spec,
them
how long would it take
I
them?
mean, by Friday could have a,
It doesn't take them very long.
this is a small truck, so it's a, it's a grass truck. It's not like it's a big engine that takes a lot of time to bid.
After use the
And I guess the other question, and this is talking to, there is one vendor in Waterloo, First Attack, they're very close, and that would probably be our choice, or our favorite, so we've kind of been working with him. When we do the performance bond, he suggested, and I think we did it with the International Tanker, that if we would pay for the chassis up front, then his performance bond is only based on what he's doing. The chassis actually would belong to us, and it would save money for us because they're just going to tack the performance bond onto the piece of equipment. Is that, I guess the question for Tim is, if we pay for the chassis up front,
We're only bidding out
what we would do is
The
allow,
customers-
have whoever bid get us the chassis, but if we would pay the chassis up front, then it wouldn't have to be included in the total price of the equipment, because it would be our chassis.
He'd be fine if we owned the chassis first and we were just I don't feel comfortable. That's kind of splitting hairs doing that.
So we
But-
just did that, didn't we, with the
We did it with the tanker.
tanker? We bought the chassis
We
from
bought
Selking,
the chassis, but,
and then
But
we...
we owned it first, right?
well, but sort of,
Well,
because
yeah, but
we had to make sure that that chassis met the builder's specifications. So the builder and Selkings had to work together to make sure that the chassis was,
So what was the bid submitted on? Was it for the chassis and the customization, or just
No.
the customization?
customization.
Is all, because we
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
the chassis.
So it's really two separate things. We own the truck there.
Yeah, we
You're going to go
actually-
out and
So you
buy
could-
the chassis.
When we delivered the truck,
Right,
it belonged to the city.
Yeah.
right.
So you want to do the same thing?
Yeah, but
So the builder and
the
whoever...
builder can locate the chassis through a federal, like QPA on Ford, for example. So they may locate a chassis in Kansas and say, okay, this is the right wheelbase, and this is the right this and the right that, and it's going to cost the city X. But they'll actually locate, rather than going out to courtesy, it's located through a nationwide
QPS.
QPO.
Okay, and because of that, we don't have to go through the bidding process to buy it under that kind of an arrangement.
No.
Right. So, as long as we do it that way, and we're only taking a bid bond on the customization of the chassis, I think we're okay.
Okay. So that,
Wes, can I ask you a question? How much is the customization?
probably around 55 to 60.
That's not much over.
Yeah, if it were under, I think it's 25, you don't have to
If
do
it-
it.
yeah. So-
50.
So I guess, the funding's been approved for a long time. We've just, with hiring and Craig leaving, and everything just kind of got shoved back, and it's getting to be the end of the year, and we'd really like to forge ahead, so I just kind of wanted to make sure that we can meet the advertisement, know how we're going to, because I would have to locate the chassis through whoever, so we're going to have to really kind of get it bid pretty quickly so that whoever the successful bidder would be can locate that chassis through the QPO.
And then he'll probably eventually have to encumber.
And because
from
the
the
truck,
fund, because the
we're
truck
a
won't be
year,
ready until
we're
next year.
probably a year from the arrival of the truck, so.
I have done this sort of thing a lot over the years, bought a lot of other equipment.
Mhm.
And you are right, Tim, as long as you take clear
Right.
control to the
Right.
chassis, then you can do the rest of
Something
it.
else.
We used to do that a lot when I worked at the highway department.
Right.
So I think that was, both of our, off the truck subject, but both of our candidates are perf approved. Taylor's actually got 2 days in, if he makes it through today. He's actually got 2 shift days in, and he's doing great, catching on. Heath, Phyllis has got all the paperwork for Heath to actually come on board as a volunteer for the next 3 months, kind of fill in Taylor's slot. Gives us a chance to train with him while the weather's a little more conducive to being out driving and those kind of things. And so we've got Taylor on. Heath moved to a volunteer slot. He's going to come in when he can and train on the trucks and those types of things. I'm actually going to have his hire date as December 27th, because that would be in the new budget year, new pay period, and we're going to work him. We're going to work him 4 8-hour days, or 4 8s, and then we'll actually start him on shift on January 1. But he'll have 4 days where he'll work 8-hour days, and he'll work with everybody else on shift at least once in those 4 days. So he'll be working a normal week, and then he'll go to his shift week. But he's excited, and we got his perf approval, so we're ready to go. So,
We already made the Taylor a matter of record,
okay,
and the Heath, we will wait until he actually,
get sworn in.
Right.
We'll probably swear him in maybe prior to Christmas, Christmas break there, maybe that week of the 21st, 22nd, we could get him sworn in, and then he'd be able to start.
Okay.
So, okay.
thank you.
All right.
The next thing is to talk about the salary ordinance, which we will talk about at the council meeting as well. But I wanted to just go over it during the Board of Works meeting with council present. Did any of you have a chance to review it today? Phyllis emailed it, but it was late when she emailed it to you, so I didn't really expect you to. Basically, the major changes from 2016 to 2017, I'll go over them. We're restructuring the street department, which I think most of you know. Ted Winning is going to take a step back. He's no longer going to be the assistant commissioner. His new title will be labor machine operator, and he'll go to an hourly rate of $18.34 an hour. Matt Schultz will take the assistant's position, but we're changing the name of that position to assistant operations manager, and would then assume basically what Ted is making, which is a biweekly salary, not per hour, but salary of $17.45.20, $1,745.20. And we're creating 2 new management positions, and those would be crew leaders. Nate Hirely and Marty Martin will have the new position of crew leader and would report to both Matt and ultimately Jeremy. Their salary will be, for the remainder of this year, $1,657.94, and that's a salary that will be paid 85% from the street department, 6% from the water department, 6% from the sewage department, and 3% from stormwater. So 85% from the street department and 15% from the utilities, basically because they are going to be supervising utility people. And also it helps us to come up with the funding for it. How we establish their salary is, it's 5% less than an assistant. So annually, it's a couple $1,000s less than what Matt would be making as the assistant.
Question, Ken.
Yep.
In that, what I'm asking, is that those appointments, is that Jeremy's appointment, is that your appointment?
Mine. Yeah.
I thought that's the way
Yeah.
you structured that one.
Other changes.
Well, we need a certificate of appointment for that.
You do for assistants on the other departments, you probably should.
Other appointments, both Melissa Norby and Sharon Brown. Melissa's basically at an assistant department head salary, and we are going to gradually, over a period of 3 years, phase her up to a department head salary. And that's, I don't have the amounts here, but, and then the same with Sharon. Sharon has been working as an assistant, but not getting assistant's pay, and we're going to stair-step her up gradually over a period of 3 years to the assistant salary. Greg Cook is requesting adjusting his secretary's pay to be an administrative assistant. I don't have that right here handy, but it's all within legality. Tim Baker's per diem will change. It will go up $10 more than what it was per hour. Volunteer firefighters' first hourly rate of pay is going from $14 an hour to $15 an hour, and their required fire training hourly rate will go from $10 an hour to $12 an hour. Also, volunteer firefighters working relief, their pay will go from $250 a day to $300 a day, or not more than $12.50 per hour. And that covers all the changes in the new salary ordinance. Everything else would reflect the 2% salary increase that we had approved. So I just wanted to kind of go over that during the Board of Works meeting, and if there's any questions or anything. Jeremy has already pretty much structured job descriptions for the assistant department head and the 2 crew leaders. We have not really even discussed this with the 3 of them yet. They don't know. I wanted to get this approved tonight, the salary ordinance, and then we'll have a meeting with them this week yet. And when did we say this would go into effect?
It
No.
would be
The
October 30th, but they wouldn't get paid out until the 18th.
Yeah,
Payroll.
end of this month.
That would be the 2-week period.
They knew you were looking at restructuring, but...
I told them that I was going to restructure, that Jeremy was just being overtasked, way overtasked, and they all knew it. I told the entire staff down at the street department one day, and he wanted to talk to me. My door's open, come see me. I've had 7 of them come see me. And basically everyone down there felt that these, they all had these three guys in mind. They were the same three people Jeremy had in mind. Matt is just kind of got leadership in him, to be blunt about it. I mean, he is just kind of a born leader. When Matt finishes a job, he goes and finds something else to do. He doesn't go back to the street department and twiddle his thumbs or anything. He's a go-getter. And the other two are both already proven leaders. I mean, they pretty much have the respect of everyone down there at the garage. Ultimately, I would like to change that entire area down there and call it our Public Works Department. And Jeremy and I discussed that. Rather, that facility really doesn't have a name. We call it the old Baker Schultz building, or the street department area, but it serves more than just the street department. Now, we don't officially have a Public Works Department, but how do we even go about doing that?
Well, you just redefine. I think you'd have to look at the statute. You have the ability to create departments for city government, and it's something we'd probably have to run by. I'm sure other communities have consolidated these, so...
Jeremy says he's saying that.
Many communities
Right.
have done this. A Public Works setup or Public Works...
My guess is you call it public...
Is today's, or actually tomorrow's, beginning almost today's version of street department.
You probably have an ordinance that says it's Public Work Department, and under that umbrella fit all of these former departments. That's my
You're
guess.
still paid under the same
Yep.
water utility, MVH, sanitation. It's more of a professional approach to, okay, where do I go when I have this issue? It's Public Works facility or Public Works Department. You have so many people that say, oh, we're going to the Baker and Schultz property. We're going to the old Schultz property. And we're going to the street department. Well, you have
Down
so
the
many
Crick
different
and Tyndall
departments down
property.
there. You call it the street department, nobody really feels like they have a home. Well, we gotta go back to the street department,
Right.
There's nothing on the sign, because they've caused so many issues over the last couple of years. I went out one day and pulled all the letters off the sign, because there were so many people down there grumbling that we don't have a home, and we don't have this, and we don't have that. And I think it's something that John and I discussed almost a year ago. We never really come up with an agreed name. Ken and I discussed it in December. Ken agreed that he wanted to do something. I think it's time that, we come up with a professional approach and something positive.
Every morning
for
when-
that property.
Every morning at the beginning of the day, as many as 5 departments report down to that building, for their work assignment for the day. So it's, now while, some of them are being paid from water, some from wastewater, some from park and rec, et cetera, it would still be nice if we'd have said they all work under Public Works, the Public Works umbrella. So we'll look into that a little bit more. We can always...
Technically, you're doing Public Works
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, isn't our official title the Board of Public Works and Safety?
Yeah.
This is,
So
yes.
yes, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, since we made all the changes, it really hasn't been a street department per se.
Doing Public Works.
Yeah.
Going to all of the seminars that I go to, I had a very interesting conversation with one of the higher ups at LTAP. He was very aware of the changes and stuff we made 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. We talked about some older boats, that we've had over the, the last few years, just with some different obstacles and such. And he's very proud of what we've done, where we've started from. Rich and I talk back and forth immensely. But the biggest thing that, just sharing a few things with him, he was one of them that really pushed to go Public Works. And he will tell you, Public Works is where you need to be. You're more proven leaders, you're more professional, you're getting away from street department, you're getting away from a lot of this other, that a lot of the other agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, and such look at that. When you're dealing with grants, when you're dealing with other things, so more of the structured, more of the professional avenue of how you're functioning and what you're named. It doesn't sound real big, but I trust what Rich was telling me that day, and he's been talking with other people, other smaller communities that have combined. You know, jokingly, they kind of laugh. You know, you guys are a public work shed, and you're not this, and you're not that. You know, what are you waiting for? You know, it's a statewide thing. You know, and it's the direction I really feel that we need to go.
So we'll get that taken care of here.
Okay.
Tonight, there will be 2 salary ordinances that we have to approve. One will be an amendment to our current salary ordinance so that the 3 new management positions can take effect at the end of this month. And then the second salary ordinance will be next year's salary ordinance. So just to be clear, there will be 2 fund ordinances just for the salary.
I got a couple questions on that.
Go ahead.
Now that you're making them salaries, the new law that just came into effect, or will we open up a can of worms? Are they going to be under that threshold where they have to keep hours and we have to pay them for the overtime?
Good question.
Ultimately, get paid over.
They will still get overtime. If they come in, plow snow, whatever, they get overtime.
So they'll be on salary, but they still get...
Right.
Do they turn in a time card then?
Yeah.
On salary?
Yeah.
I'm, and being a department head, the rest of the department heads are the only one that do not get.
Yeah, the department heads are the only ones that are in
But-
executive,
And
or
all
white
department
collars,
heads
or
are
call
up
them white
to that
collars.
above that threshold.
Yeah, 47,000 is the threshold.
Yeah,
Kind of
the
an
county
odd
had a
number.
bump some, because that was easier to... And my next question is, this might be a little more complicated question, but if we're gonna come up with job descriptions for these new assistants, are there job descriptions across the board for everybody else?
There are.
Another great question.
They were developed back in the early 90s.
1993, I believe, was when we last paid someone to write job descriptions. And it's funny you should ask, because during this process, when I asked Phyllis for the job descriptions for everyone, and she got the book out and gave it to me, and I'm like, whoa, these are old. I said, why don't we check and see what some other communities have done? And we got a hold of Bluffton, we got a hold of New Haven, and Bluffton thought it was just kind of uncanny that we contacted them when we did, because they just rewrote theirs. And they gave us the name of the company that they used, and Phyllis and Wendy and I had a meeting with them already. And so we're going to look at another company. We don't want to just look at one and go. We want to look at a couple of them, and we will be rewriting all of our job descriptions because it's way overdue. Go ahead.
I think my job descriptions are up to date. I've had job descriptions for 20 years, probably.
Okay.
Just wanted you to know.
Do we have copies of them in here, or do you just have them? Okay.
They're in that book.
They're in that book? Okay.
You need one sentence at the end of all job descriptions. You know what that is?
Oh, well,
And anything else as required.
Les?
Well, in just going through PERF, I was kind of surprised how close our full-time firefighter job description comes to what's outlined almost verbatim for police, job expectations and all that. So if you download the PERF application, the very first page is requirements of police, requirements of fire. So, you know, at least for the full-time, your job description is almost verbatim in front of the PERF application. So I think we should be, like, if we look this over, we should be consistent with what PERF's looking at as a requirement. So it's right there.
The company we interviewed was pretty impressive. They actually come in and talk to everyone and survey every department head, every assistant department head, even the staff, I think, right? Yeah, and ask, what do you do? And they build the job descriptions. It was pretty impressive how they did things. Yeah, Greg?
We did that years ago. That's what ours was based on.
Yep.
However, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, way overdue.
I thought that they didn't include a lot, there's a lot of nuances in everybody's cities and departments that you can't have mass-produced job descriptions.
Yeah, that's what she mentioned too.
Right.
They're not like that.
Yep.
You actually, the
These
employer will
aren't
fill out a
canned job
survey of what you
descriptions.
actually do, and then they'll meet with you and go over all that. And she said they don't duplicate what they've done in other communities.
That's
But
too
that's
easy.
just one company. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
What kind of fee was it?
It was reasonable,
It was
actually.
real, I don't have it with me, but we both were surprised at how inexpensive. I think it was so much per job description. And she estimated that we would have maybe 50 or 60 job descriptions.
The fee would, unless it's exorbitant, would be well worth it, because it's very difficult in-house to take that time, have someone who's already have a full-time job, and then, that's why job descriptions kind of get pushed to the side and don't get updated as frequently.
Well, and frankly, from a legal perspective, if you're looking at trying to insulate the city from discrimination cases, from any kind of issues with regard to inappropriate discipline or termination, you have to have those in place.
Yeah, she mentioned.
And one of those one of the
Used for a lot of
categories is
things.
your physical, what kind of physical ability do you need to, because
Right.
when you have someone injured, and if they really don't come back full speed, then you have the job description that is very clear that it requires this kind of physical activity. So you're a lawyer, so you know.
I read the cases, and it makes me nervous. so.
Workers' comp would be another category there too.
Yeah.
I can let you know what that is, but off the top of my head, I'm not even going to throw it because I can't recall. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Yeah, those are good questions, Tyler. Good questions. Tyler doesn't speak a lot, but when he does, he usually has good comments, good questions. Okay, that is all that I have on the Board of Works. Tim, did you have anything else for the Board of Works?
I've got a lot of things, but...
For the Board of Works?
No, I can do it at council, or if you got a few minutes, I can go over some of this stuff. It doesn't
I
matter.
guess let's bring up a couple things. Let's talk about the wetlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of them that I had here. Just an update for everyone. We're getting close, finally, I think, to completing the acquisition of the properties. This has been a long, drawn-out process. Thought we'd be there long before now. What we ran into is two issues. One, apparently the appraisal that was done was a federal appraisal, but it's not a yellow book federal appraisal, and there's a difference. And when that was noticed by DNR, they indicated that we had to have a yellow book appraisal done, so we had to redo the appraisal. Then we found out that we had to have yellow book appraisals on the two
Both
different
parcels.
properties. You can't combine one appraisal for both properties. So we're in the process of getting that done. Then we found out that because we have a dedicated easement on the one parcel for our River Greenway, that we can't buy that property since we already have a dedicated easement. So we had to revise the legal description to remove that from that. We just got the legal description on that. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that by the end of the week, we get the green light from DNR on both the Yellow Book appraisals. Kevin, I'm sure, can appreciate dealing with the government. But in any event, I think we're getting very close, and I would say, I've said this before, that by the end of the month, we should be able to get things done. But that's my hope.
Yeah, it's really looking good.
Yeah, so...
The Yellow Book appraisal for the St. Mary's property, the larger amount, the DNR has accepted that. It's been submitted. Our appraiser didn't want to submit both of them until he saw if the
That
first
one
one
got-
was going to be good. And they got back with us and said, yeah, it's fine. So now he's working on the second one, which should be pretty much similar, just
Right.
different numbers.
Right.
So the two properties is the St. Mary's.
And Community Family Services. So that's where we are on the nature preserve. With regard to flood buyouts, we have 5 properties that we're purchasing. We've closed on 3 of the 5. We're waiting for confirmation from the other 2 when they're ready to go. but those went very smoothly, and I anticipate the same on the last two. We have a closing date scheduled for purchase of the Schaefer building. That's scheduled for Thursday, October 20th at 1:30 in the afternoon. We received a letter, and I'll have this made a matter of record by the Board of Works. If you recall, there was some discussion over the last few months about extending the sewer main out to Mr. Neidlinger's property past the industrial park. Mr. Neidlinger was pushing and pushing to get that done until he found out what the cost was going to be for him. Then he apparently talked to the surveyor, found out that his outlet for a septic system was still functional. He had indicated the reason he wanted to tie into the city sewer was he had been told that it wasn't. Once he found that out, he had his attorney contact the city and indicate that he was no longer interested in working with the city to extend the water main. So I just make a matter of record that we received a letter from his attorney confirming that. That way, if later on he wants to know why we didn't do something, we've got something in our record showing that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to make that a matter of record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Yeah, that was good news. That just saved us about well, it would have cost us 44 plus...
It's not going to be a cheap
yeah.
project. The idea was that we were going to run out. Initially, we talked about a low-pressure line. Then the more we talked, Jeremy and I think Verlin and Ann decided it made more sense to run a normal main out for future expansion. But that required Mr. Neidlinger to provide us with additional right-of-way and easements to get across his property so that we could continue west. He's not interested in doing that any longer. So at this point, there's no point in us proceeding running our line just out to the edge of his property. There's no point in doing that. I talked to and I think Kevin Biggs was here before, talked about the artist lofts and the project, the proposal that he was talking. That's going to come up at the next meeting of council. Council needs to decide whether you're going to make a commitment to a local match, and that's somewhere around $330,000 as I recall. That's not all hard money, but the total cost is somewhere with certain things that are factored in that we get credit for without having to pay the funds. The idea is that there's going to be 15 lofts put into the music house, 2 on the ground level at the back towards the alleyway that will be handicap accessible. Then there are lofts on the second, third floor. The front part of the building on the ground level would be the Creative Engagement Center. There could be some workspace for artists to work. Could be also a place for display of artwork. They're talking about even using the basement for that. So that's back on track. Kevin was having trouble getting in contact with the owners and was able to finally, and they got that worked out. It also involves then, once we acquire the Schaefer building, that we would work with Kevin to take down the building, repurpose that site for parking and green space, and then we would lease back a portion of the parking spaces to Kevin for the use by the artist loft tenants. The arts or the Creative Engagement Center would be gray space, meaning that the shell would be updated and the exterior, the foundations, that sort of thing. But the interior, in terms of the layout and the construction of walls, doors, that sort of thing, would still be the city's responsibility. But we would actually own that. We would also own the parking area, so we have control over that. The idea is if all of this comes together and we are successful in getting the Okra grant for the Madison Street improvements, this is going to really have an impact in that whole area, and that leads right over to First Street for riverfront development. So that's kind of the process that we're moving towards. We'll see how things work out. Update on that. I did talk to Tom Pittman. Kevin also contacted a local bank. They're very much interested in working with the city. we can't just turn the money over to Kevin for the project, so we're probably going to have to run this through the redevelopment commission, and I'll talk to the redevelopment commission tomorrow night at their meeting, kind of explain this, give them a heads up, but there are ways to do it, and basically what would happen is most likely the redevelopment commission would need to borrow the money, use TIF revenues to pay back the loan, and then the money would then be used towards this project as part of the city's match towards it. Okay? Questions on that?
So Biggs is not coming this evening. He's coming at our 18th meeting, and at that 18th meeting, we would need to either accept his recommendation or deny it. We won't have time after that, which that was a concern of yours, Craig. So in the next couple of weeks, we need to find out what our questions might be of Kevin, so we can be prepared. If any of you have questions or concerns, I know, some of the locals are already asking a question about whether this is low-income housing and whatever, and what's going to actually happen out at Country Brook, and what would happen at the East Ridge and Down Ridge Drive property. So if any of you want to talk with Kevin, let me know.
I also have Kyle's contract. This is for Board of Works.
Yeah, is it for the Board of Works?
I had council, because council's approved it.
I had it, well, it needs to be approved by Board of Works, subject to council funding.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay?
Yeah.
So, NERC has offered to be the grant administrator for the DNR grant that we have for the nature preserve. Cost of it is $10,000. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of reporting, and it's not just during the project, but it's for years following. So they're responsible for doing that. And we've talked to Melissa, and I think Melissa has not done one of these previously, and I think it probably makes sense for NERC to take this on, because if you don't do it properly, literally DNR can ask for their money back. So she submitted a contract, and she inquired about the status of that because she's already doing work that she probably shouldn't without a contract, so she'd like to get this approved if that's possible.
Kevin, did you have any comments about the wetlands project while you're here?
No, other than that we are on target with our side of the ledger. That's the drawings. They're moving along very well. We've had meetings, working with Jeremy and others, about the content of the wetland, and it's looking great.
Yep.
So, thumbs up.
Yep. Yep.
So this is a not to exceed $10,000.
Yes.
So the Board of Works is just
Board of Works needs to approve this and authorize the mayor to sign it, subject to council appropriation
approval.
funds.
Okay.
She's been very helpful in this process.
Cheers.
She's been very helpful. NERC is a fantastic group of people. They do a great job for us for very little money.
We'll make a motion to have the mayor sign it and forward to the council for funding.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. Anything else, Tim?
No.
I have one thing from you.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you talk about acquisition of property, did we ever get the casting property?
We have ownership. We have not done quiet title because there's a significant mortgage, and I'm trying to figure out whether it was discharged in bankruptcy or not.
So we basically,
Don't hang on.
We own it.
since we are doing all the
Right.
mowing and everything on it, so,
Yeah.
okay. That's fine with me.
Trying to think, there's something else. Oh, it was in, Jeremy and I were inside the Schaefer building today. Boy, it's bad. Right. I was fine until I got upstairs, and then I couldn't move. I kind of froze right there. I was afraid to move, afraid this pet body's going to fall through the floor. So,
I will caution you, depending on which direction you go, whether it's get on board with Kevin or not get on board with Kevin, you're gonna have to do something
ASAP.
really quick with that building.
Mm-hmm.
There's holes in the floor upstairs. I could tell this morning that there had been people in there, young kids in there. We've done some more security stuff today. Sent Matt back up there with some OSB and OSB'd over some doors and stuff. There is paint all over the inside. There's fresh
3
paint.
weeks ago.
We found some other things that a little disturbing going on the inside of that building. You need to be prepared one way or another. You know, whether you get on board with Kevin or whether you don't. You know, we need to get that building taken care of once.
That would be a good question for Kevin, is if this goes, how soon will it go? And then and how soon could he get to the Schaefer thing?
I've been in that building roughly 3 times in the last year, and this is the far worst that I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's not going to find out about the tax credit financing until February, I believe.
You walk across the floors, and you can just feel the floors. I actually stopped and grabbed a hold of the wall to one spot.
Can we secure it to the point where nobody can get in? We can't?
We need to do some more.
He's not going to know until
I don't think
February.
we're ever going to get it where nobody's going to get in there. There's just too many areas that they can get in.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't get it, we're taking it down. We don't have a choice.
hospital, the kids are just hurt.
That is my concern, because once you
Because
close
it's a-
on it, you're accepting
it's a
full
health
liability
hazard
to
at that
that property.
And I'm really concerned about my officer going in there too, if they find it.
I would be concerned if I was an officer and I had to go in there, yeah.
If there's a fire and we're not sending anybody in, it'll be next.
Yeah, you were in there today, Jim. Yeah, it's bad.
And on the windows on the north side, them are big enough, kids can get inside, people leaving, and have them doors and stuff off, they're facing easy, just around the corner there. That's when we turn some off.
They're unlocking the doors so it doesn't look like anybody ever broke in. Once they can get in there, we've got them barricaded off on the inside, so they can't push them open or kick them open, but they're pulling a lot of that stuff off, unlocking the doors, leaving the doors intact, so they can just pull them back closed again. So to the naked eye, it doesn't appear that there's anybody in it. Well, with the paint fumes that was in there this morning that we were smelling, they were in there last night. The fresh paint on the floor and everything else that was painted in there. If they wasn't in there last night, they've been in there every day for the last several weeks.
Yeah.
Strong as those fumes are.
Were things on the West Monroe Street sewer project, did you meet with Mr.
Everything's
Bechtel?
on track.
Okay,
Everything's
good.
on track for the November 1 completion.
Good.
Phyllis, do you have anything? If not, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We're adjourned.
Quick question for you, this house on the corner.
Down here on